everyone, welcome to episode 18. I'm NetherCloud, and it's been quite some time since my previous video, so I had to go back and take a quick peek. Refresh myself on where we were and figure out how much progress we've made since then. And to my absolute delight, it's a lot more than I remembered. Quite a bit of which was spent over at Project Darkwater, which is the mega build that we're currently working on in this world. It's out there, beyond the horizon, somewhere off in the distance, in one of these directions, or another. That's not quite so important since we travel through the Nether to get there anyway, but it is a lot of work when you're doing things on that scale, and we're still in the preparation phase. You guys know that sometimes when you're working that big, the prep work takes as long, or sometimes even longer, than the build itself. And so patience is definitely the key word, and something that we have to embrace. That being said, it's also important to take breaks from the grind and work on more digestible endeavors, such as this beautiful tower that you see right in front of your eyes. It's inspired by some of our subscriber lore from the Twitch channel, and for those of you who don't know, whenever you subscribe to the Twitch channel, I give people the opportunity to become part of the larger story here in C137. We give you a paragraph about your character and an armor stand to represent that character. And when those stories inspire larger ideas, we run with it and build things like this. This particular build was brought to us by Producer Moo, who is a longtime friend and wonderful moderator for the channel and has his own YouTube that I'll link to in the description that I think you guys will get a wonderful chuckle from. So if you want to have a good laugh, click on over, show him some love from me, and have a good time. Meanwhile, let's dive into his character here in the world. By his own words, he describes himself as a bumbling necromancer. Someone who is a little bit clumsy in the way they do things, but manages to get the job done. So we've represented that with his wonderful garden? Sure, we'll call this a garden. We've got wither roses and berry bushes and jack-o'-lanterns, things that seem appropriate for a necromancer character. Now, in this world, we've got kind of a Clark Kent Superman type vibe going. We all know he's the necromancer. It's quite obvious. I mean, skeleton horses, right? Who else is going to live here? But we respect our members' privacy and suspend a little disbelief so that we can give him a bit of his privacy, which we're going to violate right now by entering his domain. We'll meet his butler, the skeleton, and take a look at all of his precious possessions. Don't tell him we're in here. He might get upset. Not really, but hey, it's fun to pretend and roleplay, right? Now, I would highly advise against using these respawn anchors in your build. As you notice, I'm not clicking like I usually do to point at things because I've blown them up before. Not on this build, but on other builds down in our main base, and it's cost me dearly in time and rebuilding work. So if you are going to use them, be careful and do pretty consistent backups would be my advice. I like to work with exploding things, so we also have end crystals up at the top, which started in front of the door, and I had to use a bunch of pistons to clean that mess up. But speaking of the top of the tower, let's make our way up there now with a few brief pit stops along the way. This could easily be used as a starter base. I mean, it's a little bit larger than your average starter base, but we've got plenty of storage for bits and bobs that we would need at the beginning of the game, and it's not some crazy redstone complicated thing. We just have boxes to put things in. There's nothing in there at the moment, but maybe I'll come back in and throw some things in that fit into the story. Moving on upward, we've got some chains and more windows to look out of to see the grand view of our wall. There will be a lot of other builds in this area eventually, but for now we're just gonna take it one step at a time, as is appropriate. If we come up to the top here, we go through a nice little trapdoor out onto the spires? Sure, spires. Spikes, whatever you may call them, with the floating end crystals. If you're curious what shaders I'm using, right now I have complementary shaders on. I love the way they do the lighting on these, and again, I'm not clicking to point because I don't want to blow stuff up right now. That just seems like a bad way to end the first segment here. And we are going to call this first segment Up at This Place because we've now crawled up to the top of the tower. I may replace the roses down here with wither roses, but since this is the Rose District, I think it's still appropriate to have this outside the tower. Maybe our HOA maintains it? Maybe not. But let's take a quick look at some of the other things we've been placing around the place to bring it to life. Skipping past some of our more underdeveloped sections of the Rose District, we come over here to our town center, or Commerce District, whatever it may be called in the future. You guys know that I'm not the best at naming stuff, and my focus is on making everything look good and adding the details that bring this place to life. We'll let naming be Future Nether's problem. That guy can handle it. I have faith in him. But that brings us over to our lore for Felix's character, who is hiding out in the corner here because he's a thief. A rogue, a ne'er-do-well, if you will. He's more of a lovable scamp, though. He may steal the occasional loaf of bread or make trouble for the local butcher, but he lends his talents to us in very useful ways by snatching secrets from the other kingdoms. Now, I'm not sure who our enemies are, but given that we have a giant wall around our kingdom, we probably have a couple. Are they going to be magical creatures that are trying to devour us? Are they going to be greedy other kingdoms trying to steal from us? I have no idea. I haven't really considered that. I just like building walls. You know, we just place blocks and roll with it. And as the world develops, we'll fill in those important details. And speaking of important details, we needed some blacksmiths, or more accurately, netherite smiths. And that's where Atlas comes in. He wanted to be one of the crafters in our world, bringing us the finest in netherite goods and wonderful wares from around the kingdom. We even given him a little Enderman helper over here. I've talked about the Enderman in this world, but I'm not quite sure if I mentioned we've added lore in a book downstairs. If you ever get into the world later on when I make it available for download, go looking. But the Endermen are an important part of this world. Not all of them are evil. Some of them are helpers. So let's go down and check on a few of our helpers that have been added since last we were here. Like this fine fellow right here, who's leading our horses down from up above, where I imagine there is a bitter winter storm with ice and hail and snow and sleet, so that he could bring them down to the underground paddock in our catacombs, where we're nestled close to a magma vent to keep us nice and toasty warm and protected from the elements. Or I just wanted to come down here and show off how cool this place looks with complementary shaders. Absolutely love this shader pack. Credit where credit is due. You guys are doing an amazing job. In addition to that, I also wanted to show you guys the Enderman, like I said, and talk about how we're going to be doing a lot more with the armor stand mod for our subscriber lore and with the Enderman, because I think it adds an element of life to the world that's missing otherwise. I mean, this place could do with a little modernizing, add some texture and detail, but putting in these armor stands and giving characters a place in the world as opposed to just buildings really takes it to a new level for me, and I hope you guys like it, because there's going to be a lot more of it. But speaking of a lot more, we do need to crack on with another project. I know I've just been running my mouth and updating you guys, and I like to do more than just that in these videos, so let's rewind time to our Hobbit hole build from last episode. Now, I know that I said I would finish the boathouse in between episodes, but I got distracted. It happens a lot. It'll happen again. But I thought it would be nice to finish this up, so let's do that. I've turned off shaders to get back some frames, and because I prefer to build without them and then check out how it looks afterwards when everything's complete. I've already done a bit of local storage area shopping so that we can grab a few bits that might help us complete this build, and if we need to grab more, we're still in our main area, so we can just pop down and do that. I think a good place to start would be to shape this out a little bit, get the connection to the river sorted, and get a little bit more space to work with in here, and then we'll go from there. That's a great start, and we've definitely got a bit more elbow room to work with. I didn't want to go too big, because of course we have to fit it in context with the rest of our build, and we've definitely got to address the fact that these walls are very flat, and this entryway is very square. I think that if we put down a few more pieces and get an idea how we're going to lay this place out, it'll start to come to us naturally what we need to do to make this look a bit more organic. What I'm going to do now is put in a few support pillars, maybe a little bit of flooring, and see where that takes us. And where it's taken us is here. We've obviously made a big change to our entryway, and it still needs a bit of work, but I think we're headed in the right direction. I've also adjusted the staircase to be a little bit more steep and got rid of the black wool. It wasn't working for me, and this is. What I think we're going to do, and the rain is what gave me this idea, is instead of leaving these as little posts that I was going to cap off with something, we'll extend them up and give a little bit of a covered canopy tunnel type vibe to this, and I think that'll help sort out this flat wall. Maybe we'll even dig in a little bit so it allows us to pass around these pillars and gives us just a little bit more space here. So let me do that, and we'll hop back in. So I wound up doing a lot more than I thought I was going to, and sorry, not sorry, it's coming along great. Sometimes I just hit a groove and I got a build. When I decided to round this corner out, it started to make sense to expand the planks out over the water. And we do need to get a proper support system in here, but I don't want to do more of these pillars because I tried that and it was looking a bit cluttered and clunky. So I'm thinking what we're going to do is actually build up some stone bricks, maybe some blackstone, deep slate, and support it fully from underneath. The canopy I was talking about doing, oh, this thing came out absolutely amazing. Let's go into free cam so you can see it in context. We're going to have to add a bunch of leaves and other foliage to really nestle it into the ground here, but this came out better than expected. I also started putting some dark prismarine up on the roof, and the reason all of this happened and I got so carried away is something I often talk about, and that's context. As I was trying to figure out what to do with the canopy tunnel section behind me, I kind of needed to see what else was going to go on, how tall the place was going to be, what the roof shape was going to be like, how it was going to integrate with the rest of the build, and because of that, the whole thing kind of got away from me. In the best possible kind of way, of course. And we've still got a bit more work to do, and I'd like to get a little of that done, and then I'll bring you guys back in for before the final detailing phase. We've got a lot of detail work to do. I think the detailing might possibly take longer than everything else we've done here today. So let's get the next little bit. Let's organize the supports for out there. Let's work on these pillars a little bit, because I just kind of put placeholder blocks in here, and see what else we need to make as far as shaping goes and getting the broad strokes finished up. And then we'll detail. As far as visual progress is concerned, I feel like this pass was a lot lighter than the previous ones, but I think we've gotten a few key elements in place that are going to tie this together. Namely, these oak trapdoors as a bit of a railing to our build, and adding in the blackstone at the base of our supports here to bring it together with the bottom of the riverbed. Now, we definitely have to transition it a bit more and add a lot more detail to both this section as well as the riverbed itself out there on the larger part. Past Nether did a good job, but he left a few blocks that have absolutely got to go. I mean, that guy does good work, but nobody's perfect, including me. So we're going to do that, and just to note, I did make some support underneath these planks, again out of blackstone because I like the way it looks underwater. And in addition to that, I also threw in some foliage around the canopy up here. Let's pop up on the side here, get into free cam mode. I'll show you guys a little of that. I think it ties it in nicely, and you guys missed a creeper explosion. I'm very sorry that I didn't get that on camera, but, you know, sometimes those moments, they happen and you're not rolling. But it wasn't too much damage. Had to make a few repairs to the house as well as the little seating area that this is going to be. And, you know, sometimes those things have to happen to remind you that, you know, mistakes will happen, and you gotta roll with the punches. So let's get into the detailing phase. I am really not sure where this is gonna go, but wherever it does, you guys are coming with me. The journey to the end of our boathouse build and our hobbit home as a greater whole has finally come to an end. Everything, and I mean everything with me, always takes longer than expected, so I'm gonna try and expect the unexpected next time and allot a bit more time for projects. Even though it's a small area, it's a big deal sometimes to get it just right. But I think we're there, and so it's finally time for the grand reveal. If we go through our door, hold your breath. Here it is. I wanted it to be very impactful as we came through into our boathouse, so I think we've really accomplished that by building very densely. We've got chains that we would hang our treasures and fish and everything else off of so that they can dry as we come back from our adventures. Even using these trapdoors up here to give a little bit of depth to the wall and hide the candles and bells behind it felt really good. We've got workbenches and treasure maps that we used to have down in our storage area. I'd like to start putting clocks in more places. I never know what time it is, and I think that might have been why that creeper got us earlier. Over here, we've got boxes and flowers and kegs, and of course we have a boat. It's dark oak, because I love dark oak. I think you can see that from this build. Down in our river here, I did a lot of detailing. This took an obscene amount of time. I didn't go as crazy going outward, but I did want to make sure that the mouth of our exit from our boathouse transitioned well. So we'll have to come back at different points in time and continue adding on. But I've really come up with a palette that I like. The podzol looks great as like a muddy type vibe. We've got different parts of the underwater foliage, and I really like the way these lampposts came out. We've even got a little Enderman friend fishing, and up here on the top, I brought up one of our parrots from our jungle adventure long ago. This is the very first time I've actually used the mangrove wood from the 1.19 update, and I'm looking forward to updating to 1.2 finally so that we can get on with the cherry wood. A bit of foliage has been added in here and there. Some of the vines have continued to grow. All in all, I really enjoy the way this turned out. I always talk about trusting the process pretty much every episode, so I won't harp on it here, but I hated this build. I got to be fully honest, I couldn't stand it right up until I put the last little bits in. And now I feel very proud of what's been accomplished here, and I hope you guys really like it, because I do. And we're going to keep doing more stuff like this. This brings a close to a section of the Rose District. I'll jump up in free cam one more time. As you can see, we've been working very hard over here to get this area finished out. It's still got a lot of work to do, but I think we're in a good place and can start transitioning that over to the other sections. For now, though, I think it's time to bring a close and let the sun set on our journey. I really look forward to seeing you guys next time, so please be well and take care of yourselves.